Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including four-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfalla.
And Ray Alfalla is a four-time champion of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series.
Three-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a three-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Data packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. Sign up for a free account and download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there, you can analyze and compare 2 laps of your choice, whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also makes it easy for you to request and schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. Visit virtualracingschool.com today to sign up and get started.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're watching from. Thank you so much for joining us here on Apex Racing TV for round 4 of the Colorado Karting Tour iRacing Winter Series here at the virtual Daytona International Speedway. I'm Tyler Newitt. I am joined in the commentary booth tonight by Tim Cox, and we've got the great John Grabowski working the cameras and everything else in the production trailer for us tonight. So we've got a night race here at Daytona for the Colorado Karting Tour. It's just past sunset in the virtual world. And these drivers are going to tackle this roval for just an hour, which is extended beyond the normal Colorado Karting Tour format of a 15-minute heat race and a 30-minute feature, excuse me. So will be a bit of a different challenge for these drivers. We have already had the one endurance event this season that actually kicked off the season, but we will have another endurance race here under the lights at Daytona. So Tim, I assume, much like the rest of us here in the booth, you've been diligently watching the real-life racing that's been going on at Daytona this weekend, and you just couldn't get enough, so you're back for some more.
I think you summed it up nicely. What a grandstand finish that we had earlier on. I won't spoil it, just in case there's few people not caught up with what happened on the final few laps, but well, let's just say the GT cars did us proud, and here it's not quite the GTD stroke GT3s that obviously feature in the main 24-hour race. However, it's the Grand Sport or GT4 cars that are out on track. And well, having said that, the Raw before the 24, the event which they feature in alongside the TCRs. Of course, we don't have the TCRs in this league. That was equally an absolutely epic race, and well, of course, Daytona, what can we say? The first ever race here, it was a sports car race. It's just all brewing. Everything's all coming together, Tyler, for what is going to be an absolute classic race, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yeah, the Michelin Pilot Challenge race was fantastic, and it seems most of the field who was watching that race got the idea of which car they needed to bring. It was a strong showing from Porsches in the Pilot Challenge race, and similarly, we're seeing Porsches on top here and making up most of the field. The lone BMW campaigner, Jeremy Davis, has switched over to a Porsche, and we've got just 4 McLarens bringing the fight to them in this hour-long race. Qualifying just wrapping up, a few drivers still putting in some laps, and once they do, we will bring you the time. But currently, it's Bruce Lukens who sits atop the board. Qualifying probably a bit different around here. With all the cars on track at once, the tow going to be massively important, as it is during the race. Those of us who participated in the iRacing Roar before the 24 certainly well aware of that fact. That race 2.4 hours, this race just an hour. But anyone who did take part in that will certainly have most likely a leg up over the competition here tonight in this GT4 race.
Definitely, it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers get on with of course, the slipstream being so powerful on the banking section, especially out of the, well, we all will still probably, I'm sure, affectionately call it the bus stop chicane. It's now renamed Le Mans chicane. Obviously, off the exit of that, if you get this, so crucial because it's the longest part as you head out onto the tri-oval, and it's how you then manage it and you get past into, make sure you get ahead into turn 1 to get yourself up a place. So equally, make sure you're defending that position, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that one plays out. And also, of course, into well, I nearly called it by its old name there, Le Mans chicane, as it is called now. So we can just see AD coming into now. It's going to be interesting because it's so easy just to get your line a little bit wrong there. And of course, the fabled off tracks that happen within iRacing, the time penalties you incur from it, we could see a few drivers in a whole world of pain from those.
Absolutely, and we have just wrapped up qualifying, so there is your starting grid. It is the aforementioned Bruce Lukens who will lead the field to green tonight. Mark McCormick, who has had a strong showing in the championship thus far, starts in second. Then it'll be Kenny Schmid, series regular in the Porsche, in third, and multiple race winner already this season, Lawrence Zavadil, will start in 4th place. First, the McLarens will be Ezra Kelderman lining up 5th alongside another McLaren. That's Rob Hubrechts, reigning series champion, in 6th. Then it'll be Rob Holobar and Mike Weber 7th and 8th. Floyd Kerr in 9th alongside Michael Herring in 10th. Aaron Botnick lines up 11th alongside another one of the McLarens, Suraj Pradhan. Behind them, it is John Combs in 13th, Jeremy Davis in 14th, then Zach Peterson 15th, Michael Keltner 16th, Max Opolsky 17th, Danny Lopez in 18th, Mark Sherman 19th, Nicholas Aday in 20th. I think Nicholas potentially new to the series this week. Ben Jolly lines up 21st, Brian Bruzzi 22nd, and Dustin Wayman 23rd. So this will be a very interesting race, just waiting for a few more cars to get to the grid now. But like we were saying, it'll be interesting to watch the drafting that goes on. Found in the iRacing Roar, really the only thing that kind of broke up those draft trains throughout the race was traffic. And of course, no traffic here in this series, at least not in a different class. So it'll be interesting to watch how those kind of battle packs and draft trains ebb and flow as we watch this race unfold. Still waiting on just one more car to grid, and they now have, so expect that safety car to begin rolling here soon, and trailing Bruce Lukens along with it.
As you say there, Tyler, about these draft trains, and if you find just, some of the drivers could end up getting themselves caught up and in a bit of trouble, if they've got, the outright pace on the infield, the road section, to keep up with the leading group, but because they're obviously out on the banking section, if they fall away from them, it then becomes incredibly hard for them to catch up to that pack that's ahead of them, unless they can get a bit of luck of working with the cars behind. But equally, the cars in front of them are also working together, so it makes it incredibly hard for the drivers behind to catch up. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens, especially in these early stages of the race. Just how much will the drivers be working together to maybe look to pull away from the cars in front of them, behind them, and it's going to be absolutely fascinating to see how things play out.
Sure will be. The other thing, of course, we don't normally see in the Colorado Karting Tour is going to be pit stops. All these drivers will have to make a stop at least for fuel. I happen to know, as far as tires are concerned, you can take tires on one side while fuel is filling for the amount these cars will need for the races. Ooh, look at Mark McCormick. As Bruce Lukens takes off, McCormick tried to squeeze Kenny Schmid there and slot into the inside line, but Kenny's got a great run, and he'll have the inside for turn number 1. Everyone so far so good through turn number 1, and McCormick crosses up Schmid, and looks like he might try and take that position back as they head to the International Horseshoe. That was a McLaren going way wide. It was Rob Hubrex. He's going to get likely a drive-through penalty for cutting the course there.
Well, the
and
spinning
Lawrence
Porsche
Zavidil and McCormick. So our top 2 in the championship are around and quickly dropping to the back of the field. There's a couple other cars there with them, Combs and Danny Lopez. Not sure what happened there. Wondering if, looking at the 2 cars involved, perhaps McCormick broke on the grass, or rather Zavidil broke on the grass and collected McCormick. We're going to get a view of Hubrex first. He was already well off the track at that point. Don't know if he had a helping hand there, but that is a bit of a strange course. It looked like McCormick and Zavidil in the background were actually independent incidents, so we're definitely going to need a replay of that if we can. But all of a sudden, the top 2 in the championship are at the back of the pack in this hour-long race. McCormick, again, a little late in the action. Don't know if he had a helping hand there. And Zavidil clearly not a part of that incident, at least in the later stages. But out in front, it's Bruce Lukens, who has already almost a second and a half over Kenny Schmid. That'll, of course, come down with the tow. These cars will pick up a tow about 2 seconds back, maybe a little bit more. But Kenny will be getting the outer edges of that tow from Bruce Lukens. But now is the chance for Bruce to try and gap Kenny through the infield. So here's a replay of what happens to Lawrence Zavidil. Hubrex's was definitely either some sort of hardware. Oh, it was Zavidil and McCormick. So the 2 championship leaders coming together there. And Zavidil just late on the brakes and McCormick with nowhere to go. Then that was Danny Lopez and Combs spinning in the background. But wow, what a turn of events here.
It's a crazy start,
leaders
Tyler.
Getting together. Yeah, it really is. And just like that, top 3 looks rather different with Lukens leading from Schmid. That's how it was at the start. But now Ezra Kelderman sits 3rd in his McLaren. Mike Weber is 4th, and then they've got a decent gap back. So that's kind of your lead group as it stands at the moment, the top 4. And then a secondary pack led by Rob Holubar in 5th with, well, pretty much the rest of the field behind him. So we'll see if that leading quartet can break away here or if they're going to get caught by this group behind.
So it's fascinating to see how Lukens has already pulled out that big gap. He said 1.7 seconds over Schmid in 2nd place. There he is. Almost checking out in this early stage, but still incredibly long way to go. He's still got some 57 minutes just under left of racing as we've got a bit of side-by-side action here, heading down towards the bus stop.
Indeed, and yeah, that gap will ebb and flow with Lukens and Schmid. It seems like Bruce is pretty quick in the infield section, and that'll help. But as soon as they get back out onto the banking, Kenny Schmid can take advantage of that draft and begin to reel him in as he's doing right now. Here we see a little bit further back. This is Pradhan Peterson and Kerr going after it. Peterson jumps to the outside. We'll see if Kerr makes a move to the inside or stays tucked in behind Suraj Pradhan. He will, and he'll have the inside line for turn 1. This may work out here, assuming there's no difficulty on the brakes here. He's got the inside line, and it looks like he'll jump Peterson. So Peterson tried to make something happen, ends up losing the spot there to Floyd Kerr, 9th place.
It did indeed. That this group really tightly compact right now, as so many of the cars are in these earlier stages. And interesting, I was just keeping the one on that gap for the lead. Lukens, that gap is reducing. It's starting to come down. Schmid taking around about 3 to 4 tenths out of the second off Lukens last time around there, Tyler. So clearly some tactics between himself and Ezra Kelderman behind in that McLaren. At the top of the McLarens, running in 3rd position right now, and they're clearly working together to let's close the gap to Lukens.
Absolutely, and that's what you'll see at Daytona. You get these groups of cars that just can't separate themselves. In fact, this quartet is rather lucky that they've got the gap they have over the secondary group, because it is immensely harder to bring yourself back to a group ahead of you than it is to stick with a group that you're battling in. And it makes sense when you think about it, as we see this battle for 12th place going down. You know, you figure the cars generally qualify roughly where they are on pace. And then you think about the fact that to make the difference, you know, it's easy to close a gap, as we've seen Kenny Schmid do on Bruce Lukens with the toe. So that 2-second gap doesn't seem like, as it grew out to, it doesn't seem like an awful lot, because Schmid is able to close it up rather quick. But as soon as you get out of that toe range where Herring is, he's going to need to be running quicker than the race leader if he's going to bridge that gap. And at the moment, he's not doing that. That gap is continuing to grow from 4th to 5th. Herring not able to make that happen. In fact, they're also battling for position there, as Herring took that spot from Rob Holubar on this last lap, and that's certainly not going to make their lives any easier either.
No, it's most certainly not. As you can see, this was 2 separate, almost like freeway battles, all starting to come together and really starting to close up into a 6-way fight right now. You see Holubar, he's second in that train with Herring just ahead, Botnick, and then Kerr, Pradhan and Peterson right at the back of them as we ride on board with Floyd Kerr. Entry turn 7, bit of a tricky corner this Tyler. They've got a bump in the road just about there that tends to unsettle the rear end of the car a bit. And you can see cars spinning, especially as the tyres start to wear later in the race. Now, as you mentioned, you can take on tyres without any penalty against the full tank. Obviously, the drivers probably won't be needing that much fuel with the obviously the only an hour-long race here today, and it'd be interesting to see if any drivers do look to continue on with their current set of tyres, or do so maybe even just change up one side, as we see Floyd Kerr there just locked in a battle with Botnick.
Yeah, so 2 tires can definitely make a difference and can be done in a fill, any fill for taking on more than about 15 minutes worth of fuel. So definitely would be a potential strategy for these cars, as we see Schmid and Kelderman trading places on the timing tower. That was Kerr and Botnick we were watching. Here is the race for the lead, though, as they're starting just barely to drop Mike Webber. He may soon be out of tow range, and that would be an unfortunate prospect for him. But speaking of tires, you know, it's actually really interesting because there's kind of 2 factors at play here. You don't see it at the vast majority of tracks, but the side of the tires that wears more, perhaps counterintuitively, is the left side tires. But you find that the right side tires actually heat up quicker because you're running around the banking. So you're not putting a lot of usage in the tires on the banking, but you are putting a lot of heat into them. And honestly, what I found in the Roar and the league race that I ran as well was it was worth taking those right side tires, even though they were less worn, because it sort of stabilized the pressures for a little bit. So don't know if these drivers have put that much thought into it. Certainly, it's not that significant of an advantage, and you can probably make do without taking any tires, as we see this battle continuing for 7th place between Botnick and Kerr. You could certainly make do without changing tires, but it's just those little bits that can make the difference before the end of the race. That's Opalski off the track in that handsomely liveried Porsche GT4. And he's going to drop out of tow range as well, so that's not good for Opalski, losing touch with the pack ahead. This battle has been raging on, perhaps working together a little bit as we get a replay of what happened to Opalski here. It's hard to see with the fence there if there was another car involved. Oh, it's Mark McCormick. So the recovering second place starter, just a little touch on the right rear. And as McCormick goes through, Opalski goes off. But look, talking again about that Botnick and Kerr battle, there's a strategy to be had here. If you find someone with similar pace to yourself, where you can trade places every time you get on the banking and kind of do the leapfrog thing, which can help you move forward in a pack like this and help potentially catch up to cars in front of you by taking just a little bit of advantage of that tow every time. Not sure if that's what Kerr and Botnick are doing there, or they're just battling hard with each other and keep trading places that way, but certainly it's been an exciting battle between those two so far.
It definitely has, and I think I'd probably go with more the latter, really. It seems to be like they're battling hard and enjoying the good scrap rather than necessarily working together. See Hullabart here in the number 15 Porsche Cayman, and Kerr starting to really close up at Botnick, coming along for the fight as well. But if you look at these guys, Herring not far in front of them as well, and expect to see that gap shrink even further as they come out onto the tri-oval and head out into the slipstream.
Yeah, Herring's done a good job here. He's kind of actually gapped Hullabart about as much as he can without breaking the toe since he took over that position early on in this race. So Herring doing well up there in 5th, but he's got a hard charging Floyd Kerr now in 6th. I expect he'll be under pressure before too long here, but that looked like perhaps a challenge for the lead there from Kenny Schmid, tucked in behind Bruce Lukens here. You'd think these drivers just kind of want to ride a little bit, but there is an important factor to consider here. And it's part of the reason that you might not actually want to be leading this race, and that is that you can save a significant amount of fuel by not leading a pack of cars through here. And I don't know if Bruce Lukens is aware of that and just wants to, lead from the front and try and challenge, but you can potentially save enough fuel if you're Kenny Schmid, where you not only jump Lukens in the pits, but you jump out of tow range in the pits. So it's something Lukens would definitely want to consider here, and maybe think about letting Kenny Schmid lead for a little bit and let him take control of this race for the purposes of making sure you're on level footing in terms of pit strategy.
I'd definitely be interested to listen in to Schmid. It's the big braking zones like turn 1 and the bus stop, or the more chicane as it's now known. See just how much, if any, fuel saving is going on whatsoever. I mean, I think for me, big shout out to Mike Webber, who, despite being nearly out of slipstream range, is just about clinging hold of this lead group of 3 by the skin of his teeth, by his fingertips. You can just see them ahead there, out on track and working together. Kelderman in that McLaren heading up at wide, but Yeah, I mean, it's really a valiant effort from Webber, who's just about staying on the back of these guys right now.
It's a good note, as you mentioned, Kelderman takes that second place from Kenny Schmid, or does he? Schmid, that Porsche is so good on the brakes, and Kenny Schmid does an excellent job there to hang it around, well, the inside there, but what will be the outside for the International Horseshoe as we see this battle. But what I was about to say, to your point about Mike Webber, excuse me, really doing an excellent job, as you said. Seems like he's just kind of hanging on, doesn't quite have the pace of the top three. But the more this group battles, they're losing a whole bunch of time, and the longer that Webber can hang on to the fringes of that toe up ahead, the more cushion he's going to build for himself here over this battling group. So really excellent effort so far by Mike Webber to hang tough in 4th place. But here you see a couple of recovering drivers, Mark McCormick, Lawrence Zavadil, both a part of this pack now. Zavadil just off the end there, but they're really going to be wanting to get through here. But the problem for them is once they get to the head of this pack, they're going to be using a lot of fuel and at best making up, you know, tenths a lap on that lead group. So, you know, if you're McCormick or Zavadil here, you might be thinking, you know, it's probably the best you're going to get unless there's some major trouble up ahead.
Definitely, Zavadil having to work hard to come back through the pack there. He's just having a look down 9 places so far. As we just see the leader of the second gaggle of cars herring right now. These guys currently 10 seconds off the leader, but this looks like it could be a change here, Tyler, for the leader of this group.
Yes, it does. Kerr, we knew he was quick, looking to the outside of Herring here, and Holubar wants to follow him through. All Porsches here, so all equal footing as far as braking is concerned, but Floyd Kerr's just got that little bit of pace in hand, and he sweeps ahead of Herring. Holubar tucks in behind. Here we see the battle between a couple of McLarens for 10th place. That is Siraj Pradhan, who has it, and Peterson, who wants to take it away, with pressure behind from a couple of guys who we've seen put in some strong results. Michael Keltner and, of course, Lawrence Zavadil, who leads this championship. He is pressing to make up some ground after that mistake early on. You do wonder if there might be the potential for some penalties. Obviously, there is a protest system in place, which is reviewed by a third party who happens to be our friend Sam Fitzpatrick. Yeah, Sam will be taking a look at any incidents that get protested after this race. But while we're in a brief lull in the action, don't know if we can actually pull up those championship standings, because I don't think we took a look in the pre-show. And there they stand. So as mentioned, Zavadil and McCormick, a strong 1-2 in the championship as it stands right now, but obviously it's going to be a tall order for either one of them to snatch a win here at Daytona. Ezra Kelderman, having a strong race, currently sitting P2, is third in the championship, and then Michael Keltner, who I mentioned, in that smiling car there, ducking to the inside of Siraj Pradhan as they head through the tri-oval. Maybe like a 3-wide situation, but it is Keltner in 4th, and then Rob Hubrex, who has just had really awful luck here today, is back on track and actually is on the lead lap, but well out of it in 22nd place. So really tough for the defending champion, who sits 5th in the standings, but hard to imagine he's going to be making any ground today instead of losing it.
Yeah, definitely, and with our championship contenders obviously incurring that collision early on the opening lap into the International Horseshoe, it's definitely really shaped things up. And Ezra Kelderman, currently in 2nd in the McLaren, definitely knows he needs to get a bit of a move on, only 4 tenths behind our leader Lukens right now, but this is a real big chance for Kelderman to close up in the championship on our lead 2 and trying to gain some ground between Zavadil and McCormack.
Yes, it is, and I have just completely lost my train of thought. Sorry, I was paying attention to a different battle that I saw on the timing screen, but somewhere in there, Herring got back by Kerr. I think it was while we were looking at the standings, and now Kerr goes back through the bus stop. I was going to comment on your point and also comment on that battle, so got my brain in a twist a bit there, but back in it now. No, it's fine. It was a very valid point about Kelderman and where he stands in the championship right now, so worthy of being brought up. But there you see Zavadil and Keltner fighting it out as they head towards the tri-oval, and Kenny Schmid puts in the fastest lap of the race so far. These Porsches just get quicker and quicker as the fuel burns off, so expect to see that fastest lap continue to tumble here, but right now in the hands of Kenny Schmid.
I think worth mentioning as well, Kenny Schmid, obviously the 52.6. The next, ironically, 2 other drivers into the 52s, McCormack, probably, would expect him to, but also right down in the field, 10th place at the moment, he's up 6 places so far, as Keltner. The only other driver managed to set a lap so far in the 1-minute 52s.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, it obviously depends a lot on the tow that you have. You can tell by the fact that it's not the drivers leading their packs who are setting the quickest laps of the race right now. But certainly still takes having some pace to put in a good lap like that. But it is still Bruce Lukens out front, so whether by choice or just by circumstance, Bruce continues to lead and use the most fuel there. Ezra Kelderman, as we mentioned, now sits second ahead of Kenny Schmid. And I think Mike Weber has just dropped out of that pack as far as the tow is concerned, at about 2.5 seconds behind Kenny Schmid. That's going to be tough to make back up without some issues up ahead. But he does have the advantage of 9 seconds over McCormack, who now leads that second pack. I just saw Zavadil tumbling down the order, and he's reset to the pit lane. So what happened to championship leader Lawrence Zavadil?
What has happened to him?
See if we can get a replay here.
He's had an incident and somewhere out on the track, and had a bit of well, he's come off, and I think he may have even potentially even hit the wall. So I'm sure we can get that confirmed. Here we go with the replay. So this is out
heading
on
down to the Le Mans chicane. In behind the battling Holubar and oh, he caught the curb. Yeah, that was a tough angle to see it, but it looked like he caught the curb and or Rob Holubar. Herring the other Porsche in there. And oh yeah, that was car-to-car contact. So Rob Holubar didn't do anything wrong there. That's it's a tough corner to go through too wide, and unfortunately Lawrence Zavadil out of this race. So that is really going to shake up the championship here, especially with McCormack having already recovered up to 5th place. Puts him in a very strong position for this championship as it stands right now. There he is, trailing Floyd Kerr, and these two have pulled just a little bit of a gap over that group behind. Really, it's just kind of spaced out a bit at the front of this pack. Kerr, Herring, Keltner, all about equidistant behind McCormack. And then the continuation of the pack in behind them.
It is indeed, and of course, since the iRacing Daytona 24-hour, the sausage curve that was put onto the right-hand curb on the exit of the Le Mans chicane, as it's now known, has now been removed in a new update since then, and obviously, maybe the driver's a little bit used to that still being there. It was there obviously for the Raw as well, and just, well, you could imagine if that's still been in there, that could have been a whole lot worse, but even so, still a whole world of pain right now for Zavadil, and finds himself. He's currently a lap down, and I think that might actually... No, he has got, apologies, he has got the car up and running again, but like I say, he is a lap down right now, is Lawrence Laverdale.
Yeah, that curb was certainly a controversial part of, well, it was a controversial part of the iRacing Daytona 24, and it was the real life race as well, in that they put it in for testing. They had issues when NASCAR took to the Daytona Roval here. They essentially dug out behind the curbs in the Le Mans chicane, and so they put those sausage curbs in for NASCAR essentially, and then they didn't put the Daytona road course back on the schedule for NASCAR. So they had those curbs in, and they did the IMSA test with them there. And my understanding is that the IMSA drivers said no, and they had already removed the exit curbs by the time certainly iRacing got their hands on the data, and that third apex curb that was in place for the Daytona 24 was gone by the time the real IMSA drivers got there for the Rolex. It's 3 wide on the banking. Michael Keltner up the middle is going to, at the very least, get past Herring. He's trying to get past Floyd Kerr as well, but now Herring has Keltner's toe. We'll see if he gets a run back as they head into the tri-oval. It's tough to do around the outside, but it's definitely not impossible if you're good on the brakes. So we'll see what Keltner's got here. And seems to give it up and try and tuck back in behind Floyd Kerr. So not confident there that he could get Floyd on the brakes, but this group has fallen away from Mark McCormick, which is not altogether surprising given what we know of McCormick's pace, but continuing to battle on for that 6th position.
You say about McCormick, I mean, I've been keeping one eye on his lap times for you. Last time around, he was around about just under a second, 9/10 of a second quicker than Mike Webber ahead of him. Still, I mean, we've only completed 25 laps, so definitely more than enough time for McCormack to catch him. However, it's the incredibly tall order, and based at his current pace with obviously the top 3 slipstreaming with one another, I can't see McCormack catching them, but I think 4th is definitely a potential of being on the cards for McCormack, and probably his highest chance of finishing in this race.
Absolutely, as we see the top 3 continuing to fight, or, well, perhaps not fight, but run incredibly close together. Seems like everybody's on the pace here between Lukens, Kelderman, and Schmid, as we've got another change of positions as Kerr goes back in front of Keltner into the bus stop. And that is Herring popping out to have a look on Keltner, but he's not going to have the toe, so likely nothing changing there. As Kelderman is taking the lead of the race, must have been in turn 1. It says they're heading into turn 1. So perhaps Lukens became aware of the fuel situation, or Kelderman just decided he wanted to lead some laps. See if that happened before the line. Obviously, Kelderman taking advantage of that massive toe here. Jumps to the outside. That McLaren is quite good in a straight line. It is a little bit better than the Porsches. Tough to see if he led at the line, but Kelderman does claim the race lead.
Great move around the outside there, Tyler. Yeah, brave stuff from Kelderman on the brakes, but taking charge at the front. And now what can he do as we see this fascinating battle between Kerr and Keltner emerging behind them. I mean, Keltner on an absolute flight, up 9 places so far. It's only Brian Bruzy who is up as many places, up 9. He's currently in 13th.
Yeah, big movers in the race. And we saw Keltner sitting strongly 4th in the championship standings. Hasn't had any really tremendous runs. Obviously, the wins have been dominated by McCormick and Zavadil, but has just been a solid, consistent finisher, much like Ezra Kelderman. So really strong showing once again from Keltner. And as you said, didn't have the best of qualifyings, but making up for it here in the race. pushing Floyd Kerr hard for 6th place here.
Yes,
Would
indeed.
expect to see pit stops potentially starting in the not too distant future, as we've got another swap for the lead with Lukens going through. They've got a little bit of a tow now off of that lapped car, which is, if I'm not mistaken, Rob Hubrecht's. So certainly not a slouch in terms of pace. They might be able to take advantage of Rob for some fuel saving here, or at the very least tow around for some pace. That was like a Polsky who was going through the tire bundles in the chicane, as we see this group of Combs, Aday, and Lopez battling. Combs and Lopez caught up in that first lap incident in the International Horseshoe.
They're almost vying for a free wide here, Tyler. It's incredibly close between the 3 drivers.
It certainly is, as they dive down into turn 1. People always kind of look at me. Oh, we've got a replay of Opolsky missing the chicane here. So he was side by side with, I think that's Combs. Ooh, yeah, just knew that it wasn't to be on the brakes. That's always the wise move there, and good awareness of Opolsky, because otherwise you run into the situation we saw with Zavadil, where you're sending it perhaps beyond the car's capabilities too wide and end up in the wall. So Opolsky comes off better for it if he does lose some time going through the bundles. But yeah, that's tough. I was about to mention, people always look at me funny when I say it, but I honestly believe Daytona Turn 1 is one of the best corners in road racing, because it is such a, you know, multifaceted corner. You know, you're coming off of the banking on the brakes, because you have to start braking before you're off the banking pretty much in just about any car you run, except maybe an F1 car. And then it's kind of this double apex corner that's got multiple lines through it, and it's one of the best passing opportunities on the track. You'll see loads of passes happen there. We have tonight, and of course in the real races this week. So that, you know, it's great for racing, and then it leads into that tricky left, right, left, so there's no really optimal side you want to be on here, because if you're stuck on the right, you can tough it out through the kink there and be on the inside for the International Horseshoe. So, you know, it's not, you know, as glamorous a corner as perhaps, you know, the Eau Rouges of the world, but I honestly think it's one of the best.
It's a big, bold claim, that, Tyler, but I was just sat here thinking, well, you know, like you say, what about Eau Rouge? What about Maggots and Beckett's at Silverstone? You know, what about, you know, trying to think, obviously Suzuka 130R, epic corners, but like you say, actually, and you make an incredibly good case for it, so much overtaking is done down there into turn 1. There's so many different lines available, and it's a real sports cars corner, where a multi-class corner where you've got all, you know, those different lines available, and you've got a good chance of getting around either, you know, traffic that you're coming up to, or your competitor, or even utilising that traffic to help to get past to your competitor as well. And see, not so much of that playing out here today, but yeah, definitely seen some great overtakes down into turn 1.
Absolutely, it's just such an excellent corner as we see them fighting through the Le Mans chicane. Another really kind of fun story to come out of this real-life racing weekend. You know, I know there are some people who say it'll always be the bus stop to me, and, you know, fair enough, it is a historical name, but there are plenty of bus stop chicanes, and there aren't very many Le Mans chicanes. And on a, you know, different note, the show of cooperation that we've seen lately between IMSA and the ACO and FIA has been really great, and kind of signals really good times for the sport up ahead. So hopefully that is not just for show and they really feel that way, but I have been doing my best to call it the Le Mans chicane, because I think it's a really excellent show of cooperation there between the American and European sanctioning bodies. But we've got a battle continuing to rage between Keltner and Kerr. They keep swapping back and forth. It's Keltner's turn to lead this time, but Kerr pressing hard to get back through, and Herring, Botnick, Holubar along for the ride there and doing their best to hang on to these two.
They are indeed. It's been a fascinating battle that's been playing out between these cars, and pretty much they've been at it since the start of the race. We're now 33 minutes into the race, 27 left remaining. So they come out through turn 7, out onto the banking for the first time during this lap, and this is where the slipstream games and tactics start to come in as we ride on board with Aaron Botnick right now. That is Herring ahead of us. Kurt, you can see him just in the distance, and then Kurt Keltner beyond him. But I think one of the most impressive things is the way that McCormack has just been able to so easily pull away from these guys, despite them all working together and in that slipstream train.
It's true, though. Oh, we've got our first pit stop of the race. It's Ezra Kelderman. Everyone should be able to make it to the end from here. But Ezra, the first of the stoppers in that McLaren, which is known for guzzling a little bit of fuel, though they have made that better with recent updates. But also in the lane are Keltner, Botnick, and Herring. Several drivers who you figure haven't been doing much fuel saving the way they've been battling. Oh, and a spin into the pits for Peterson. And I fear that may give him an unsafe pit entry, which is a real shame because he was running well. And Suraj Pradhan also involved. I think he's going to try and get into the pits there, but I think similarly that would not be...
That's got to be broken suspension there.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I didn't quite catch that, but yeah, broken rear suspension for Pradhan. So contact between the two McLarens heading into the pits, and that'll shake up the top 10 as they were both inside of it. But we see drivers exiting the pits now. Kelderman's already back out on track. We'll get a replay of that incident into the pits. So was Pradhan just late on the brakes? Yes, and Peterson took a somewhat strange line there, bit wide into the pits, but certainly Pradhan later on the brakes and not expecting it. I did want to give a shout out to those of you watching us on Apex Racing TV and chatting it up in the chat. RSR Esport, Mo Smith, thanks for joining us. They're rooting on Mark McCormick. They noted that he hasn't been able to make much ground up on the race leaders, but I feel like that's not particularly Mark's fault. We kind of discussed the difficulties of being, not in a draft pack, but we've got the race leaders in. It's Luke and Schmid, Weber, McCormick, everybody's in. Weber late on the brakes there, or sorry, that was McCormick late on the brakes there, having massively closed that gap to Mike Weber in the last few laps. Kerr and Holubar in as well, and that'll be everyone who has not pit yet, I believe, into the pits now. So just about everybody making their way down pit road right now.
I think it's just, I think may well see them come in due to where they are in the lap. It's only Lopez and Davis who are currently in 8th and 9th respectively right now. Here's Weber, he's out first, interestingly.
So that is a very interesting call by Mike Weber. That pit time seems awfully short to me, which is, given my knowledge of these cars, which is, not bad. None of these cars have been in long enough to take 4 tires, so that's not the difference maker here, which makes me think Mike Weber did not put enough fuel in that car. Most of the drivers who did stopped for long enough to put round about a half hour's worth of fuel in, which is what they're going to need. But Mike Weber stopped for just 12 seconds. That's going to be cutting it close, but it does have the advantage of putting him back with this lead pack. Of course, he's leading the race as it stands at the moment. But with the lead pack, he might be able to stay in the tow and save some fuel, but it's going to be a tall task. Looking at the times to see if anyone did take tires, the first of the candidates who might have is Michael Herring. He stopped for 32 seconds in box, which is long enough to take 4 tires and is quite a bit longer than those around him. Also stopped for over 30 seconds with Zach Peterson in the McLaren. That could well have been for tires as well. But just about everybody, it seems, taking fuel only. But now I don't want to, you know, call myself a genius or anything, Tim, but remember what I was saying about saving fuel, and look at the gap between Kenny Schmid and Bruce Lukens, and is that not exactly what I told you could happen?
You did indeed absolutely surmise that to a T. So getting the jump on him and saving around about 2.4 seconds during the round of pit stop. Interestingly, Ezra Kelderman, who'd been in the middle of the pair of them, come out with the middle pit stop time of the three of them. So definitely some signs of consistency there. But like you say, interesting one. Definitely Mike Webber, stage 3 for 49 seconds. The next quickest pit stop was McCormack, currently in 5th, who was stage 3 for 59 seconds. Other than that, the rest of the field averaging around about a 1:03 to 1:04 stop. So fascinating stuff from Mike Webber. Could this be the absolutely pinpoint strategy, and he's going to make this work to a T? Well, we've only got just over 20 minutes to find out.
Yeah, I really struggle to believe it, but
I do as well.
I've been wrong before. But yeah, 12 seconds stopped in the box for, as you mentioned, a 50-ish second pit lane transit time. Just under even. That's mighty quick, but who knows? Maybe Mike Webber is a fuel-saving extraordinaire. Maybe that's why he was dropping off of the pack. He was busy saving fuel, but that all remains to be seen, and we'll have to wait and see how that one shakes out. But at the moment, can't deny it, Mike Webber is leading this race from Kenny Schmid, which is actually great news for Kenny, because he can use Mike Webber's tow here to potentially drop Kelderman and Lukens out of tow range. So Kenny is actually in the catbird seat here, trying to break that tow, which is just, you know, it's hard to stress enough how important it is around Daytona to be out of that tow range. And Kenny Schmid is awfully close to it, as Kelderman is just about 2 seconds behind him. He's getting the bump draft from Bruce Lukens there, but you know, it goes back to what we were saying. You know, Lukens and Kelderman were leading that race, and you know, they didn't seem to pick up on the fact that Kenny Schmid seemed awfully content to sit back there in third. But it's clear Kenny knew what he was doing there, as we see the battle for 6th place continuing just as it was before the pit stops with Keltner, Kerr, and Holubar. The unfortunate news for Herring, if he did end up taking tires, is that it's dropped him well out of this battle, and actually behind Aaron Botnick, who sits in 9th place by a decent margin. So we'll see if those tires help him close that gap up at all, but in an hour-long race, I really don't know that 10-second gap, especially around Daytona where the draft is so important, I don't know that that's going to pay off in the long run there for Michael Herring.
No, I think they could be definitely a tricky one for Herring, as we just head back up to the front, and you can see Schmid definitely in that slipstream range. You can see in the timing tower how the gap is shrinking. You can also see it visually on screen, and Schmid locked in and locked on to the rear of Webber's Porsche Boxster right now. So Porsche Cayman GT4.
Kenny Schmid, of course, either races or has raced these Cayman GT4s in real life. A number of these drivers, well, all of these drivers have some form of real-world racing experience. Obviously, Colorado Karting Tour members, the primary audience for this series, but we've also seen it this season opened up to the greater Colorado motorsports scene, and with some great prizes on offer to those drivers outside of the Colorado Karting Tour from Point Karting. So lots of drivers trying to fight for those prizes, including our championship leaders, Zavadil and Norman. But Kenny Schmid, as far as I know, is a Colorado Karting Tour member, so not eligible for those prizes, but definitely wants to snag a race win here, as he did in the previous season.
Definitely. See, look at that gap now between Webber and Smeed, down to 0.3 of a second is all that is separates these two. However, it's not necessarily game over for Webber if Smeed does, you know, get past him, because he's going to be sat behind him. And well, if our predictions are correct and Mike Webber hasn't got enough fuel on board his Porsche, then sitting in the slipstream of Smeed is definitely going to be exactly what the doctor ordered, and what's going to be required to get him home, as we see just how close Smeed is, but get the feeling that he's going to line up and move out onto the tri-oval.
Yeah, this is the tough part for Schmid, though, because as he's trying to get by Mike Webber, Kelderman and Lukens are reeling him in very quickly. And before too long, this is going to be a four-car battle for the lead. As Kelderman now well into the toe of the cars ahead. Can't see him as we're going through the banking. The roofline of that McLaren just a bit too low, but he is really getting after it as Kenny Schmid makes the move to the inside of Webber here. And Mike seemed pretty content to let Kenny through there and maybe just ride in behind, save some fuel. Kelderman deep on the brakes, as was Bruce Lukens, and they'll go side by side. No, they get it sorted working through turn 2 as they head to the International Horseshoe. But Kelderman really wanted to get Mike Webber as soon as he could there, and wasn't quite able to get that deep on the brakes in the turn.
No, wasn't able to quite pull the move off of there, but you see Kelderman, another of the drivers running a bit deep into turn 1 there. But just getting ahead for now, but Kelderman's going to have that inside line round the International Horseshoe. So they're going to drag it out of the corner, heading up towards the King here, Tyler. But it looks like Kelderman has just about managed to get the move done over Hula Bar.
Yeah, Keltner pushing on as he sets off once again after Floyd Kerr. These three have been inseparable for the last half an hour or so, working their way through the field. But back up front, it is still Mike Webber in second, so he's at least got enough fuel to make it 45 minutes in this race. But with 15 to go, going to be tough, but certainly we've got a great battle shaping up for the win. And I think the real question is, Tim, do you want to be first or do you want to be second coming out of that bus stop chicane?
Wow. It's the perennial question, isn't it, really, of where do you want to be? I mean, excuse me, a little bit trickier, obviously, these GT4s don't have as much power compared to the GTD cars. We see Webber just dropping off there and moving to the back of the group and losing a whole heap of time. Did he have a slowdown?
Out of fuel, perhaps. It's not impossible to get a slowdown in the bus stop, the Le Mans chicane, as it were. But well, he's back up to speed. Maybe just big time saving, lifting, coasting there. Tough to say. It was certainly an early lift if that was what he was doing. But he's made the difference up on the brakes. But what that does is put Bruce Lukens in the hot seat in behind Kenny Schmid, as he searches after that race lead that he held for the entirety of the first stint, pretty much. I think Ezra Kelderman claimed it for a lap there, but it was the Bruce Lukens show at the start of this race, and he wants it back.
He definitely does indeed, and starting to run out a bit of time now, the drivers. About 12.5 minutes is all that's left here at Daytona. This freeway battle for the lead is you see Mike Webber just dropping off a little bit, starting to now, which is a bit of a worry because he needs to stay on with these guys. You see Bruce Lukens right now already. Schmid taking a very defensive line there, moves back across onto the racing line into Le Mans chicane. Let's take all the curves and some more now. That nasty sausage curve has gone from a third set of curves within Le Mans chicane. Head out onto the drive oval, and are we going to see a move from Kelderman right here, right now? I think my money's got to be on yes for this one, Tyler.
Yeah, and I think that was Mike Webber ducking into the lane as they were coming through. Yes, it is. So, as predicted, Mike Webber a bit short on fuel there. but he did get to lead the race for a little bit, so I'm sure he had fun with that. That'll promote Mark McCormick up to 4th place and Floyd Kerr to 5th as he continues to battle with Keltner and Holobar. And Herring has not been able to make the difference up with the tires. He still sits about 5 seconds behind Aaron Botnick as we focus on the battle for what is now 5th place. And Floyd Kerr hangs on for now, but still under heavy pressure from Keltner and Holobar.
It definitely is indeed, and just mentioned obviously about McCormack, obviously he's starting to close up a little bit. I think he's going to run out of time and not have enough time to catch up onto our lead group. But of course, Mike Webber, where he didn't take in a few laps to pit, that's obviously elevating place, really helping him out. Obviously he was on that recovery drive from earlier on lap 1, that spin that's tumbled right pretty much in the back of the field. Of course, Kelderman only good enough for 3rd and that last place on the podium right now. But of course, Zavadil, he's going to be the big loser here and be devastated that McCormack has been able to make so much progress and get a bit of luck where Webber came into the pits, because this is a chance for McCormack to shine and really extend his gap over Zavadil in the championship, but also Kelderman's got a chance to now catch up to Zavadil as well. So a whole world of pain for Zavadil right now.
Yeah, but we've got a battle for the lead on at the moment. Lukens to the outside as they head towards the tri-oval once again. And call me crazy, but I think Kenny Schmid might not be fighting this too hard. I think he knows that 1st is not the place he wants to be right now. Certainly not coming to the stripe, but nope, Kenny fights it down the inside, deep on the brakes, and he will hold on to 1st place as Rob Hubrex exits the pits in 20th. Another what could have been for Rob Hubrex, who has just not had the luck he had in his championship season last time out.
Definitely, and interesting saying about, you know, this, no one really wanting to take charge at the front. I know this is the classic line from Telegay Naismith. Say, you know, if you're not 1st, you're last. Well, interestingly, a little bit reverse psychology here at Daytona on the road course, because you want to be 2nd or maybe even potentially 3rd, and as long as you get a good run out of the bus stop, you could find yourself elevating up to 1st. So we just see, well, funnily enough, it being played out in real life right now as we head out across the tri-oval. He's going to come out on top of this freeway battle.
It looks as though Peterson has the advantage with the inside line. Davis fights it hard around the outside. They're going to go side by side as they head for the International Horseshoe. And it is going to be Davis jumping back ahead. Now, can he clear Peterson is the question. He's got kind of an assist with the day back there, and Danny Lopez both coming to put pressure on the McLaren of Peterson. But for now, it's Davis who remains under heavy pressure as they head into the West Horseshoe. But it's Kenny Schmid who still leads this race, and Lukens a little bit further back as they head to the tri-oval now. Ezra Kelderman is the one with a run, but will he take it anywhere? Instead, it looks like he's going to bump draft Lukens. And it almost looked like he caught Lukens by surprise. He wasn't able to pop out and make a move in time. So they head once again 1, 2, 3 into the 1st corner with Kelderman 3rd of the bunch. The 4th car in frame there is not Mark McCormick. That is Rob Hubrex, who we mentioned had just come out of the pits in his McLaren. So McCormick still some 7 seconds behind this battling group. Oh, that's a bad place to slow down. That was the lapped car of, I believe that was Ben Jolly. It's tough because you think, you know, by being far to that side, you're out of the way. But the truth is you're much better off continuing on. Even if you're on that side, the cars have to use the full extent of the corner there. So not the wisest of decisions by the lab car there. But everyone made it through all right. Kenny Schmid maintains control of this race as we are looking at 7 minutes to go.
We are indeed, and by my calculations, probably got about another 5 laps left here at Daytona. still all to play for, all up for grabs. Definitely at the sharp end, as we've got just covering our top 3 right now. It's around about 7/10 of a second. It's all that it's going to take to get yourself from 3rd to 1st. Can Kelderman do it, or will it be Lukens, or maybe even Schmid? I'd love to find out, and there's definitely a fascinating little tussle that's emerging between these 3 drivers right now.
Yeah, Lukens right on the bumper of Kenny Schmid here, but I think we're seeing once again, nobody wants to lead. We were talking about it. You know, if you're not first, you're last, but to be first, you might need to be second coming out of the bus stop here, and Lukens and Kelderman clearly know that. If I was Ezra Kelderman, though, I'd be thinking, how do I get around Bruce Lukens? Because I don't think he's going to be able to get enough of a run to jump both of these Porsches heading to the line. I think he needs to be in second place, but he at the moment continues behind Lukens. We've got another lap car hanging to the left and potentially holding up the competitors, as Peterson is through now on Davis. That is 11th place changing hands once again. And this time Davis is going to be the one in the tow as they head for the tri-oval. Ways behind the race leader here.
Yes,
Jump back to the race lead. Sorry, Tim.
I was about to say, it's these 3, they're still remaining as they are. Like you say, still nobody wanting to blink first, and Schmid might need to do this the hard way to get up the whole of the victory, but I'll be interested to see, will he potentially even play some interesting tactics and back right out into maybe either turn 1 or the bus stop or Le Mans chicane? That needs to get used to, ingrained into my mind. But it's definitely not going to obviously do it into Le Mans chicane.
Well, it was an interesting move there by Kenny. He seemed to defend the inside line there as they were heading into the chicane, as if he wants to be in the lead right now. So maybe we've got it all wrong. Maybe he doesn't think that Bruce Lukens can draft up by him by the time they get to the line. You know, it's true. We can see on board with Bruce now. He's getting the tow, but he's not going to be clear of Kenny by the time they get to the stripe. So maybe Kenny's just seeing if he can hang on to that lead out of the bus stop by the time they get to the finish. But it's certainly interesting. Oh, Lukens had a look to the inside there. So maybe Lukens is figuring that out the same time we are. But that's going to open the door for Ezra Kelderman, who's going to slip to the inside heading into the International Horseshoe and grab second place.
Exactly, you see him prodding and poking, you know, almost, and you can clearly hear him, you know, backing out of the throttle to maintain behind our leader Schmid. But it's gonna, we've not long left to go. Only believe it's going to be about 4 laps left here of racing.
These guys are, I think it's going to be 2. It's about 2-minute laps for these cars, with just 4 minutes left to go, or 3.5 minutes left to go. I think it'll be the next one and one more, depending on when they get around. As Peterson jumps to the outside once again, so this spot's traded places again while we were watching that, and it might well change this time into turn 1 again. It's Peterson around the outside, Davis on the inside. Peterson way wide there. Yeah, he sailed it in a bit too deep, and that's going to cost him a couple of positions as Danny Lopez and Nicholas Ade go through as well. But the battle is up front now. We're going to keep a close eye on that clock. The lap time is just under 2 minutes. I have to believe we're going to get 2 more out of this, which raises another question of if it's this close as far as time is concerned. Did any of these drivers under fuel? As we see a bump draft from Lukens to Kelderman. This is the biggest gap Kenny Schmid's had coming to the line in a little while. Probably the easiest he can breathe into turn 1, but definitely going to be 2 more laps for these lead drivers. Well, for everybody. And Kelderman deep on the brakes. Another McLaren going wide into turn 1. He's not going to get it pulled back in time, and that is going to give Bruce Lukens second place. Or is it Kelderman? No, he's tucked in behind now as they work their way around some lap traffic. But it is Kenny Schmid in the lead, and now Bruce Lukens back to second place. So a lot of jostling going on there here on the penultimate lap as they work their way through the kink. This is going to come right down to the wire, isn't it, Tim?
It is indeed. It is indeed. And what can Schmid do? Can he hold on? That is the biggest question that is completely unanswered. And what Kelderman looking to be in the weakest position at the back of this three-car train. What sort of lunge is he going to make? But you see Schmid just pulling away initially from Lukens in second place, but the power of that draft coming into play. And just having a look at the clock, what we've got a minute and around about 10 seconds left on the clock. So this is going to look like, to me, Tyler, 2 more laps left to go.
Yeah, well, it'll be coming to the white flag this time around, I have to believe. But, Kenny Schmid caught a fair bit of grass there. That should be legal, as Brian Bruzzi has dropped out of this race. Not sure what happened to Brian. He's had a somewhat quiet day. Normally we see him up towards the front, but not so in this one. Now, does Lukens have a look here, or does he stay tucked in behind Kenny Schmid? It looks like he will stay behind, pushing him into turn 1. The white flag is out. They stay neatly in order. I think that was Kelderman's chance to move to second if he wanted to have a shot at the win. Not too many more passing opportunities left, so it looks like it might well be down to Lukens and Schmid unless there's some trouble between them. Kelderman, though, still right there, ready to pick up the pieces if they should fall his way. But at the moment, it's Kenny Schmid, as it has been pretty much since the pit stops.
Fascinating stuff, and not a lot left to find out as the clock ticks over an hour completed here at Daytona, the Colorado Karting Tour. And wow, I'm genuinely not sure how this is going to come out. Everyone's been, keeping their cards close to their chest as they head out onto the oval. Will someone make a lunge into the bus stop? It seems unlikely, but equally, I think it's going to be all about the exit they get after the Le Mans chicane and out onto the tri-oval. Then a pure drag race right to the line, Tyler.
It certainly will. And coming up now, as you mentioned, the final real corner on the track, if you will. Lukens is right there on Kenny Schmid. How good a run do they get? Kenny taking all of the curb available. That was a lot of grass. That was dangerously close to a slowdown if it wasn't one for Kenny. And he's got Bruce Lukens right there. Bruce jumps to the outside. This is good news for Kelderman. These two side by side early is going to give him a huge run. And now Kelderman jumps to the top. He sits in behind Lukens. He's at least going to get Kenny. He jumps to the outside. Who's it going to be as they head to the line? Kelderman with the head of steam. I have no idea. I think it was Bruce Lukens, but it was unbelievably close. I'm showing on iRacing's timing Bruce Lukens by 6/1000ths of a second over Ezra Kelderman. My, oh my.
Wow. We knew it'd be close, and Kelderman, he was in the prime position from that third, just getting the run, but just, wow, left it a little too late, but I'll be precise, left it 4 thousandths of a, well, 4 or 5 thousandths of a second too late.
Still racing going on here. This is the battle for 11th, 12th, and 13th, as the top 7 now have finished the race. Something's happened to Floyd Kerr. He's showing as out rather than having crossed the line. Did he run out of fuel or have some sort of incident coming to the line? It's going to drop him down to, I believe, 16th if he isn't able to finish the race. But these two are side by side. This is for 11th place, and it is going to be a day just barely over Peterson. So a couple of McLarens losing out at the line. Here's what happened to Floyd Kerr.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it was contact, heavy contact with Sabraj Pradhan coming to the line. Didn't see the start of it, but have to imagine they were side by side, and perhaps somebody got squeezed up towards the wall as they looked like behind Michael Keltner trying to make something happen at the end there.
Wow. A fascinating finish. And
oh, here we've got so in behind Keltner, Pradhan up top. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Kerr tried to squeeze into a gap that was not there. Pradhan was keeping it pretty tight, trying to box Kerr in, and unfortunately they came together there.
They did indeed, and Kerr definitely came off the worst from that, and ends up coming home in 16th.
And here are your race results. Bruce Lukens from pole to win, and a lot of stuff happened in between, but Bruce Lukens is your race winner. Ezra Kelderman second place by 6 1/1000ths of a second. Kenny Schmid brings it home in third after leading almost the entirety of the second stint. Mark McCormick, as we kind of discussed, did the best he could, recovered to fourth place, 10 seconds off of the winner. Michael Keltner came home in fifth to continue his consistent championship run so far. Then it was Rob Holubar and Aaron Botnick in 6th and 7th, Michael Herring 8th, Mike Weber, after his second stop, still managed to bring it home in 9th. Jeremy Davis came home 10th, then Nicholas Aday and Zach Peterson, who were also side-by-side at the line. Danny Lopez brought it home 13th ahead of John Combs. Lawrence Zavadil could only muster 15th, though he did end up back on the lead lap. Floyd Kerr, as we saw with that last lap incident, didn't finish as marked 16th. Max Opolsky 17th, then Rob Hubrex, who had a tough day from the start. Mark Sherman in 19th, Suraj Pradhan in 20th, Ben Jolly 21st, Ryan Bruzzi 22nd, and Dustin Wayman 23rd. Well, we have some interviews for you, starting with our race winner, if he is there, Bruce Lukens.
Hey, how's it going?
Well, it doesn't get much tighter than that, Bruce, but you dominated the first part of the race, and you timed it just right in the second part to claim, well, I have to guess it's the closest finish in Colorado Karting Tour iRacing League history.
Yeah, no, that was really close. I could have sworn Ezra would have me at the end, but it was like 6,000ths or something. That's crazy.
It was a pretty exciting race all the way through. You, as we mentioned, led pretty much the entirety of that first stint. We did note that you were potentially saving a fair bit less fuel than Kenny Schmid, but looked like in the end that didn't end up mattering.
Yeah, Daytona's always one of those things where you don't really know if qualifying on pole is a good thing or not. So I tried to break away early, but I just couldn't get a gap on them, and they just reeled me back in. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm just in it for the long haul. So yeah, I'm glad it worked out in the end. I know Kenny got a bit of a rough bust up at the end, but he was flying the whole race. Same with Ezra. So that was just a really good race overall.
It was awesome for us to watch. And you mentioned qualifying. You seem to be pretty dramatically ahead of the pack. Did you get, an awesome tow there, or was it just the perfect lap kind of?
I mean, it was a crazy tow. I think I had maybe a quadruple tow behind Keltner, Kenny, and Ezra. So it was just like probably the best tow I've ever gotten at Daytona. So it was pure luck.
Well, it's hard to argue it's pure luck when it translated to the race win. I think you were pretty impressive out there, and the first to break up the McCormick Zavadil duopoly, it has to be said. How does it feel getting to the top step of the podium ahead of those two?
Yeah, I mean, the last two races were a little frustrating because the last one I kind of messed up myself on the last lap, which was a little annoying. In second place, like the whole race. And then the race before that, I just made a mistake early and then had a little incident with the back marker. But yeah, I mean, Lawrence and I practiced a lot together. We did the Daytona 24 on the same team, so we're very familiar with the paces we each have. It was unfortunate. I think he spun early on. But yeah, I mean, that was a good race. It's unfortunate for Mark and Lawrence, but yeah, I enjoyed it.
Awesome. Well, a few more rounds left of the championship. It's VIR up next, a very different track. How do you feel heading to the Little Green Hell, I think they call it?
Yeah, VIR is fun. I think we're going to see a lot of crashes. hopefully not me, but yeah, we'll see. I guess I'm going to have to practice a bit.
Awesome. Well, look forward to seeing you there. Bruce, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Oh, yeah, my wife who was watching the whole race, my brother-in-law and my father-in-law who were all watching. So yeah, thanks to them for supporting it.
Awesome. Thanks for tuning in, and congratulations once again on the race win here at Daytona, Bruce Lukens.
Thanks.
And Tim, for you, I am going to grab our runner-up by not much more than a hair, Ezra Kelderman.
Ezra, welcome along. Well, I would say, how close was that? I think we all know the answer to that. 6,000ths of a second. I mean, it's incomprehensible just how tight a margin that is. So you're talking literally inches at the speed that you guys were traveling at across the line. I mean, close to 270 kilometers an hour. Do you wish you'd just got the accelerator a little bit more, or was it just one of those things you were giving it absolute hell of a lever coming out of the bus stop and nothing was left on in reserve in the tank?
Yeah, that was everything I had, and I didn't know until coming out of turn 1 after the race who won it or not. So that was one of the most fun races I've been in. So congrats to Bruce and Kenny. It came down to strategy in the draft, and it was hard to tell what the best move would be, especially being in the McLaren. But yeah, that was a great time no matter where I finished.
Well, that just leads nicely on to the next question. Obviously, were you fuel saving much? It seemed to be, especially before the pit stop, that nobody wanted to take charge of the race, and Lukens was just out in front with no one wanting to come past him. We're just happy to fuel save. Just how much were you fuel saving?
I wasn't too concerned about fuel saving, really. I think the bigger focus to me was whoever's in second or third is going to have that advantage at the line, and any mistakes you make if you're in the lead, it just, like, nobody wanted to be in first, really, and Kenny was holding pretty well up there. Bruce was holding well, and a lot of my apprehension, I guess, in this race it's probably from a lot of, I think I've been taken out of the last 4 or 5 races in the regular series in iRacing, so I'm it's a little bit apprehensive in this race.
Obviously, a great day for yourself in terms of the championship, with McCormack finishing 4th and Salvador finishing all the way down in 15th. I mean, all in all, so close to the win. Yes, that is disappointing, but looking at the bigger picture in terms of the championship, definitely a good round for yourself, would you say?
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't like to take advantage of getting a big gain, with someone else's loss or wrecks, but I did see some incidents out there. But yeah, it's a good boost. The McLaren overall, I've had a little trouble keeping up with some of the Cayman pace, but yeah, it'd be nice to be kind of up there in the running for the next few, just to see what we can pull out. So
no worries. Before we let you go, Ezra, anyone you want to give a shout out to at all?
Yeah, first off, thanks to you guys for hosting this, and CKT for having non-CKT members like myself out there. It's been good to compete against a really fast group. Shout out to my Galileo project team members, if anyone's watching out there, and yeah, thanks again, guys. This has been awesome.
Okay, that's Ezra Kelderman, came home second today here at Daytona.
And one more interview for you, and that'll be 3rd place finisher Kenny Schmid. How you doing, Kenny?
Gentlemen, I was starting to wonder if I'd ever speak to you guys again.
It's been a little bit. Obviously, I'm sure you were hoping that you'd be talking to us as the race winner today, but seems like it just wasn't to be there at the end.
Yeah, I started getting the feeling maybe with about 8-10 minutes to go that I wasn't in the optimal position, and I thought a couple times about trying to give. I wanted to be in second or third, to take advantage of that draft on the last lap, and I kind of thought about trying to give it back a couple times, and it was just too dicey, and I didn't want to cause a wreck or anything. So I figured I might not be in a great spot there, but I kind of did it to myself too. I got a bad run out of the bus stop, or I guess now the Le Mans chicane on the final lap. So it was a nail biter till the end, and to be honest, I'm just happy to be up front fighting with these guys. You know, I've had the pace all season, but just have made too many stupid mistakes and, you know, spinning by myself and things like that. So it's nice to get things together and come out here and show what I'm capable of.
Well, certainly, and it's tough to say. I mean, we were suggesting that you might be in the wrong spot there, but there were a couple times you got pretty good runs out of the bus stop, and Bruce wasn't able to do anything by the line, so I don't know that it was totally clear cut, but definitely, you showed some strong pace there. It was this a lot of practice laps, or was it a bit arrive and drive today?
Well, practice laps today, mainly in the GT4, but me and Rob Hubrax actually did the Daytona 24, the iRacing Daytona 24 on the same team last weekend. So between the practice for that, obviously they took the chicane out between then and now, but other than that, we had plenty of laps last weekend to both get plenty of practice. I was ashamed to see what happened to Rob at the start there, but maybe he got a bit of the bad luck I've been having, But yeah, so it's Daytona. It's not the most difficult track. It's difficult to carry speed and get to the throttle and things like that. And on the exit of the bus stop, there's like 2 or 3 places really in the whole lap that you make your time. But yeah, it's nice to, especially at a track like this. It's really draft dependent. Qualifying was draft dependent, and even that lead group breaking away, I think, from the cars behind it was also kind of draft dependent. So I didn't want to battle people too hard until we got to the end, and then. It looks like Weber was able to go real long on fuel, so I think that's what happened at least. I came out, I was behind Mike Weber, and I'd gotten a jump on the other 2 guys there, so that was, the pit strategy was good, the fuel I put in was good. I was battling up front till the end, it's just I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, but like I said, I'm just still happy to get a podium here this season finally.
Yeah, it was actually Mike underfilled. He came down pit road twice.
Oh, was it? Okay.
The first time, but
well, that's why he jumped so far ahead then, because he didn't take enough fuel. Yeah, I was wondering why he came out ahead of me when I came out of the other 2 guys, and it seemed like I had a good strategy. But yeah, it's been like I said, it's been a tough season so far, but I've had the pace, so it's nice that I can just put together a session like this and come home on the podium.
Yeah, well, Kenny, it was fun to watch you, and I was certainly glad to see you back up on the podium. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, actually it's been so long since we talked. So much has happened. So I definitely want to give a shout out to Will to Win Racing. That's WTW Racing. That's the team that I race in the World Racing League, where I drive that Porsche GT4 in real life. And we had an absolutely amazing 2021. We won the Midwest Championship, the Eastern Championship, the National Championship, and we won the first ever 24-hour race that they've ever had at Sebring International Raceway. So it was just an absolute breakout year for me. I'm excited to be back with the team this year for 7 races. And yeah, I haven't had a chance to share all that good news with you or the world yet. I do have a new website out as well. It's KennySchmidRacing.com. So if you're interested in checking out more about me and my racing, hit up the website, and that'll take you where you need to go.
Awesome, Kenny. Well, thank you for joining us, and congratulations once again on the podium. And hopefully we see you on the top step here before too long. But Kenny Schmid, everybody.
Cheers, guys.
And that will do it for us here in the Colorado Karting Tour iRacing Winter Series from Daytona. It's been, it was a great fun race to watch, and a few more rounds of the series coming your way before it's all said and done. As mentioned, we're at VIR next time out on the 13th of February, so come catch us here on Apex Racing TV for that. And you can catch a whole bunch of racing action on Apex Racing TV. Unfortunately, we are short on time, so I can't run you through the whole catalog of what's coming your way. But if you subscribe to Apex Racing TV here on YouTube, or follow us on your favorite social media, Apex Racing TV, you'll be able to catch whatever we've got coming your way. I'm sure it'll be great. But that'll do it for us tonight. For myself, for Tim Cox, and for Jonathan Grabowski, thank you so much for joining us, everybody, and we'll see you next time.